Hello and welcome to the BetterU Podcast, where we go in depth and get to listen to stories of hope, strength, and courage straight from some of the leading health, fitness, and wellness experts who help transform lives one person at a time. I am your host, RKaye, and today we're joined by CEO of Barryl Coaching and transformational coach, Jennifer Strohecker. Hello and welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you for having me. I appreciate it very much.
We appreciate you being with us on the show today as well. So before we get to the better details of how it is that you coach your clients, I would like to formally introduce you, and I would like you to tell us a little more about how your journey began as a coach. What was it that happened that maybe you have triggered or started your decision to say, I want to help other people?
Right. That part is easy. I've always wanted to help other people. I was an elementary school teacher for 25 years. And we got to the point where our enrollment was low and the school closed. And those of us that were kind of middle-aged went, what are we going to do for the rest of our lives? We've always done this. And so I kind of tutored for a while. I babysat for a while, and I still wasn't unsure. Had a couple part-time jobs, and I ended up working with a fellow teacher who got her coaching license as a cancer journey coach. And she said, will you be my free client? So I did. And I said, yeah, because I really don't know what I'm going to do. So we, went through the strengths test and the values and all those things that all of us coaches do. And she kept pointing her finger and I kept not seeing it. And she said, you're just a natural. You're an educator. You should get into coaching. And my son's like, yes, I've been telling her that all along. And so I did. And I did some training. I had already been on a self-development journey at that point. So COVID, of course, helped with that. I had lots of time on my hands. And so that's how it began. And so as much as I thought I wasn't going back into teaching again, that's exactly what I'm doing. It's just a different audience. And I have to say, I'm really enjoying it.
That is absolutely true. I agree with that. A good amount of coaches do have that sort of aura in them where they're like educators and teachers, and sometimes they do think that they are teachers. Other people are like, am I really that? I don't think I am. So it's always that spectrum of I know I am, and I'm not really sure. But yeah, I do agree, and I love hearing a lot of the coaches begin their journeys where they're not really sure, but they take that leap of faith and take that action step and really have the courage to begin helping others. So could you tell us, is there a specific experience that you've had that somehow has become a staple, something that is always on replay when you get to talk with your clients, or that really inspires them to finally say, okay, I want to work with you?
I think what is really, there are a couple of things actually, but one of the things is that in today's world, the stress is tremendous. And with digital technology, even more so than when I experienced it, it is just the demand to be on all the time. And it's as strange as it sounds, and you always hear this from coaches, but people have to be given permission to shut off. And people have to be given permission to self-care. And so I worked, to the bone all the time as a teacher. You don't get, everybody's like, oh, you only work 8 to 4. That's great. But then there's lesson plans, and then there's grading papers, and then there's report cards. And so we were working evenings, and Sundays was lesson planning time. So we didn't have that time, and it was just work, and perform. And then there was kind of a turning point where my son got sick with a chronic illness. And at that point, as much as I love my job and I love the kids, it became very apparent to me that I had really focused my whole life on work. I mean, obviously we had family time and all that, but at that point, I just stopped letting the stress bother me because I think there was just a bigger stressor. And I realized, like, whoa, this is way more important. And if I need to leave my job or drop what I'm doing to be with my family in this crisis, that's what I'm doing. And I don't care. And then we'd have staff meetings and some people would be in an uproar and my boss would come to me and she'd say, okay, everybody else has been in my office since the meeting, not you. How come? And I said, because my situation outside of this is way more stressful. So I need to manage that and I need to keep my head so that I can show up for work every day, knowing what's going on at home. And so I just think that stress and being able to empower people to let go and say, you know what, this is not the end all. Take a breath, balance your life.
Absolutely. And speaking of stress, that is like the number one factor where people kind of, they're not really sure where to go. Like their directions are all over the place, right? So a lot of us these days have so much on our plate that we're not really sure how to deal with it. Is there a specific tip that you would normally introduce to your potential clients, like one step that they can do today that would always help them out?
I always ask when we start, of course, they let me know what, they're stressed about and everything. But then I kind of turn tables on them and I ask them, well, how's your sleep? How's your hydration? What are you eating? And they're like, yeah, but that's not the problem. And I said, but it contributes. And so, it took me learning that on my personal development journey. If somebody said, are you stressed? I'm like, no, I'm okay, but then I wasn't sleeping. And so it's a big eye opener, I think, for people to realize that all of those things add up and all of them, even if you can't see it on the outside, the stress is going on the inside.
Absolutely true, and I relate to that a lot.
I bet, in your business, sure.
I think a lot of people do tend to do that. Like we try to just brush it aside and say, I'm okay. But deep inside, you're like already crying yourself. Yes. Right? So a good amount of your work is more on or has to do with mindset. Yes. Are there particular practices that you share with your potential clients or that you practice continually with your clients? Could you tell us a little bit about that? How you go through it?
A lot of, and one of the unique things is I kind of have two wheelhouses of women that I work with. A lot of the people that I talk to are my age, but then a lot of the people are young girls. And some of the young girls are just not able to work through these transitions of life. Like, okay, I did all the things. I went to college and I got married and now I have a house and I'm thinking about kids. And again, it's almost like giving that permission to let them be in the driver's seat for their own life. And they've done the things because someone else told them to. And so that is a big mindset shift that they need to explore. I had to do it myself too, because I went through my whole life on that, kind of path that I was doing what I thought I should do. And so I just have to really dig in and say, well, let's not think about that for a minute. Let's think about what you want, what makes you happy, and then how can we get you there? And sometimes it might mean switching jobs. Sometimes it might not. Maybe they're okay with their job, but they need to realize they need to spend more time outside of work doing the things that they love because they're just not doing it. So that's a big mindset shift and a lot of, again, letting go of those beliefs because We were all taught you should or shouldn't do this. And as an adult, it took me a long time to go, is that what I really believe? I don't think I think that, and then you just dig in a little deeper to find those things that are true to you and not the people who taught you along the way.
That is actually a very, very good way to start out shifting the mindset of someone that you get to interact with and you get to guide. And speaking of mindset, shifting the mindset, is there or are there certain misconceptions about mindset or teaching someone how to really delve into how they feel, how they think? Are there misconceptions or myths that you would like to share with us that people should be a little wary about?
One of the big things, and I think probably this comes to mind because it was a big struggle for me, having taught for 25 years and then the last 5 not teaching, I realized that my whole entire life was a teacher mindset. Even outside of school, outside of work, everything I did, I felt I had to do the right way because I was a teacher. And it was a certain image that I had to portray. So I think, again, people get caught in that trap. And so just letting them know that there's a difference between a fixed and a growth mindset. I don't know in those exact terms that until I started my self-development journey, I actually heard it that way. Like, our training for teachers, you'd always, learning opportunities and this and that. But I don't know that I ever heard it in those terms, growth mindset versus fixed mindset. And so when people begin to realize that the more open-minded they are, the more they can learn. And I really, really work on the mindset that mistakes are okay. Because I grew up in a perfectionist household, but then as a teacher, I'd have kindergarten, first, second graders, and they'd be making mistakes and they'd be crying over mistakes. And I'm like, no, that's okay. That's how we learn. And then 4:00 would hit and I'd go home, and that didn't apply to me. So, just getting out of that mindset that you do not have to be perfect, that it doesn't have to be stressful, that try new things, learn new things. And if you fail, okay. It's really okay. It makes us human. People need to see that. They need to see that side of us.
Absolutely. A lot of people really do need to hear that more often, that it's okay not to have everything perfect as the way you plan, because life does happen and you can't really have a full grasp of what's going on, right? So you do mention that you teach or have taught children, and I'm sure a lot of them grew up and remember you as a teacher and were inspired by you. Do you yourself have your own mentors or people that you get inspiration and motivation from?
Absolutely. A lot of strong women, actually. I became a teacher because of my kindergarten teacher and my senior high school teacher. Both of them were huge influences in my life. My mom is a very strong woman and got divorced when I was 10 and worked really hard to keep, the two of us in our same house and everything. So definitely my mom, other family and friends as well. I had aunts growing up. My very first boss became a lifelong mentor for me. And we are still great friends to this day. And she was kind of probably one of the driving forces in getting me interested in health and fitness. Before she worked where I met her, she was a physical fitness teacher. And we always visited every summer, and she always had her weights accessible. Nothing was in the closet. Her workout stuff was in the living room, and the kids would play with it. And she'd say, "Oh, here, this is how you do this." When my son was 2, she had little dumbbells in his hand, and she'd always say, "Got to have strong bones. You got to lift weights. Got to lift weights." And she's in her 80s today and still physically active. And for me, I was like, I want to be older like that, So it's been a great inspiration, her and her husband. And obviously my coaching friend that got me into coaching, she became a cancer journey coach after having cancer, and watching her be able to work herself through that and then help others do the same thing. When we talked about me going into coaching, I was like, you know what? I've watched what you've done, and I want to be able to do that.
That's always beautiful, to have people that you get to, work with initially, and then you become friends along the way. And
right.
Yeah, those types of stories really get to me, and it's absolutely beautiful to see a lot of the coaches really kind of make sure that they do pass along every lesson that they learn from these mentors. Yeah. Now, so far in your coaching journey, has there been a significant moment that has truly made you proud as a coach?
Many. I just said to somebody the other day that finished up my 6-month program, I said, I feel like a proud mom over here. It was a young girl that I've worked with for quite a while, and other young girls that I've worked with too, when they get to that point where they're telling me their problems, and I'll say, okay, I understand your feelings, and I see where that's coming from. What are you going to do about it? And they give back to me the tools and the strategies that we had previously talked about. And I'm really not even talking. I'm just sitting there smiling, and they're just going, and I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this. And well, you know what? I don't have to worry about other people's opinions, because I know that my opinions are the ones that count. And I'm sitting there going, it's so exciting. And I really, really feel great when they are empowering themselves, and they're coming up with solutions, and they're coming up with, like I just said, well, I don't have to worry about other people's opinions. I didn't say that at that moment in time. That was coming out of their mouth, and it's good, because there's the mindset shift.
That's absolutely wonderful. A good amount of coaches that I've gotten to talk with, this is exactly what they're really proud of. You're really proud of just how much transformation
That's right.
your client goes through from point A to point B. It doesn't matter how long they've been with you. It doesn't matter how small of a win it is. Whenever your client has their own wins, has their own changes, and has their own shifts when it comes to their journey, it's just absolutely beautiful. Now, on a last note, could you tell us a very best piece of advice that you would like our audience to take away from this episode?
One piece is really, really hard. And I was thinking, as you said, wins. I've had some great coaches of my own. I'm still being coached. Coaches need coaches, right?
Yes, absolutely.
And one of the things that my current coach was really big on, that I don't think, again, in my previous experience, I thought about, was really counting those small wins. And she's really big on that. And it really makes a difference in that, to believe in yourself. My advice to somebody would be just to really stay committed to your journey, accept those imperfections. And I believe that successful doesn't have to be stressful. And my little tagline is that life is always imperfect, but it doesn't have to be so prickly. And that's where Crooked Barrel coaching came from, the Crooked Barrel cactus.
That's really that's ingenious. I love how you came up with that. So now I know a little bit more about how it started out.
Yes, we were embracing the imperfect. Yeah. We have property in Arizona, and we live in Pennsylvania. And my son and I were walking through the property, and we were talking about it, and literally the barrel cactus grows crooked, and that's what it looks like. And we're like, that's it. That's what it's going to be. And we spelled it wrong to embrace the imperfection and put the Y in it for my mentor, actually.
Yes. That's absolutely that's great. Like I was kind of thinking like this is a little odd, but maybe there's a meaning to it. And I was like, oh, okay.
Yes.
Got to explain that to us. Well, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you.
If you would like to get in touch with Jennifer, all of her details will be shared in the description box below. And to everyone watching us today, I would like to thank you all for joining the BetterU Podcast. Thank you so much, Jennifer, for taking the time and being with us today.
Yes, thank you for having me. Really appreciate it. Great conversation.
You're very welcome. So everyone watching, again, this is Coach RKaye reminding you to never give up on your movement journey because it's never too late to move. Bye-bye, guys.